Hey everyone, today I'm going to be talking about my analytical report and what I did. And I'm just going to be sharing with you guys what I found. So, I researched the most sustainable energy source for humans and what would be the best to pick between solar, nuclear, and wind energy. And I selected these because they are probably arguably the most popular out of what we have for sustainable energies, and they all have some unique challenges and benefits they have that bring to the table that I want to just compare and see that what is like the best between like their environmental impact, cost effectiveness, energy efficiency, and safety and risk. Those are the four criteria points that I compared them through. Before we get to the actual analysis part, I want to talk about the different criteria points that I just mentioned, and I want to dive a little further into them. Basically, for the first one, it is the environmental impact, and basically we assessed the greenhouse gas emissions, and this was measured in. Let me get this. This is kind of let me make sure you get this right because I'm not going to say this again. So, grams of carbon dioxide equivalent per kilowatt hour of electricity generated. So if I when I say the number later on, it's going to be like 6 or 4 grams of carbon dioxide, etc. But I'm just going to say 6 grams to make it a little more clearer, to if that makes sense. But yeah. And the second one is going to be cost effectiveness, and this is we just compared the average cost per megawatt hour for utility scale solar, wind, and nuclear energy. So that's for the second one. For the third one, it's going to be energy efficiency, and this criteria focuses on the capacity factor, and this is like a percentage of basically how much it can use its energy, if that makes sense. Like how efficient it is with the energy. So I'll get into that later on, like I said. And the last one is going to be safety and risk. So now that I gave you guys a quick little overview of the criteria points, I want to dive just straight into the first one, which was environmental impact. And I know I said I wasn't going to say it, but I'm going to say it again. And basically, it's just grams of carbon dioxide equivalent per kilowatt hour of electricity generated. And all this fancy words combined, all it really means is that how many grams of emissions are being let out into the air. And 6 grams was the highest, and that was solar, and wind and nuclear tied around 4 grams. And it's neither here nor there. Like they're basically all about the same. So I wouldn't really declare any one of them really a winner, because there's such minimal differences that it doesn't even matter at that point, and it doesn't matter. So the second criteria point, like I said, was cost effectiveness, and utility scale solar actually demonstrated the best cost effectiveness at $34 per megawatt hour, and wind followed closely at 38, and nuclear is at $175. And this is obviously right now the biggest problem with nuclear energy is just how much it costs. And this is like what sucks the most about nuclear, because you'll see later on, but it demonstrates and performs really well in a lot of other categories, but the price is just, we can't afford it right now. And yeah, solar at 24.6% with that capacity factor is just really low compared to nuclear, and considering how much we use solar right now at this moment. And the last one I wanted to compare was just the safety around different of these different energy sources, because I know a lot of news sources out there, and people talk about how nuclear energy is really dangerous and all of this stuff. And I just want to really dive into that and really find some unbiased information about what really the truth was. And I really found that from these numbers, at least the ones I found, that solar is actually the safest. All right, that's the safest option. All right, but actually, nuclear is the second safest, and the third is wind. Wind is the most dangerous out of these three, which that probably surprised me and probably will surprise a lot of other people, because just how many people say nuclear, if you just think of nuclear energy, you're going to think, oh, exploding and this and that, and you think that a lot of like dangerous stuff. But in reality, it's actually one of the most safest, and it was measured in deaths per terawatt hour, and for solar it was 0.002, and then it was 0.004 for wind, and then nuclear 0.003 right in the middle. So as you can see, it's right on par with those other two. So I don't really understand where that comes from, but that was really interesting to learn. To summarize, I just wanted to say that solar, nuclear, wind, they're all great options. But in the end, nuclear does come off as the clear winner. And it's remarkable, actually, because the capacity factor is at 92.6%, and it's over 3 times higher than wind, and like over twice as high as solar. And it's just crazy how that capacity factor is, just because I feel like every other criteria that we compared, they were really, really close, but capacity factor was the one that you could tell that nuclear really just excelled at and just was dominant at. And I don't think there was very many others that were very close. And so yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys for listening to me, and I hope that you guys learned something today. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, and hope you guys have a great rest of your summer.